Nearly 1 month into the season, it's still an odd sight to see Russell Westbrook now in Washington and John Wall in a Rockets jersey. Both teams made that deal as an attempt to keep their best players happy. It certainly didn't work out in Houston with James Harden, and so far it's not going well for the Wizards and Bradley Beal, who could become a free agent in 2022. After Harden, Beal's the next star teams are eyeing. Today on The Void, we'll explore the state of the trade market, Beal's value, and whether Beal could end up wanting out just like Harden. While things are imploding in Houston, the Wizards have one of the worst records in the league. Even though general manager Tommy Shepard said in November that Bradley Beal isn't going anywhere, and even though Beal himself hasn't expressed a desire to be dealt before he can hit free agency, teams thirsting for a big trade are hopeful Beal will become available at a slightly cheaper price than Harden. Beal's leading the league in points per game, but when he's not on the floor, Washington's offensive rating plummets from top 5 in the NBA to last. Westbrook, who was acquired for Wall and a heavily protected future first-round pick, hasn't been able to carry the load without Beal in the game, and their defense can't get stops. Here's what Beal said last Friday.
At this point, man, we can't guard a parked car.
Yeah, they can't guard anything right now. They stink. And Beal said that after the Wizards allowed 116 points and a loss to the Celtics. But the truth is, he could have said it following really every other game this season, including the night he scored 60 points in a loss. It's ugly for the Wizards right now. But they still hope the results improve, as they should, because this team is better on paper than they have actually performed. But if the losing continues this season, teams vulturing around Washington are wondering how long until Beal wants out and a trade becomes the franchise's best option. We've seen this story unfold before. And there's an argument to be made that Beal has more appeal to more teams than Harden does. At only 27 years old, he's younger than Harden, who's 31, meaning Beal's best seasons could still be ahead of him. And he has a more malleable game that could immediately plug into any system. Harden is one of the game's more unusual players with his ball-dominant style, whereas Beal could fit pretty much anywhere. He can thrive running a high volume of pick and rolls and isolations, and he's still able to move off ball and use screens like he did when he first became an all-star. But Beal can't do it alone, and he's not getting the help he needs from Westbrook. While Wall is one of the reasons for optimism in Houston, Westbrook has been a main concern in DC. He's an aloof defender, and he's also having the worst season of his career offensively, scoring 0.7 points per possession, which is worse than 90% of the NBA. And yet, Russ attempts 19.3 shots per game, which is more than all but 7 players. It's wild. And you know what? Westbrook dislocated a finger on his shooting hand last week, which could make his perimeter shooting even worse. But that injury isn't what's driving a worrisome shot selection. Westbrook's explosive drives to the rim have been replaced by even more mid-range jumpers. Only 20% of his shots come from the restricted area, the lowest mark of his career, and 44% of his shots come from mid-range, the most in his career. I hate to say it, I really do, I mean it, but his performance feels a lot like Allen Iverson in Denver, a past his prime star struggling on a team in a jersey that you're not familiar seeing him in, adjusting to his diminishing gifts and talents. With Russ, there's still a winning player somewhere inside him, but he needs to recognize it to manifest it. Less perimeter shooting with more cutting, more passing, more screening, and way more defensive effort. That all would help Westbrook impact winning even without racking up points like he has on his prime. In other words, be more like Wall. And Wizards fans already miss Wall, though undoing the trade wouldn't solve all of their issues. Head coach Scott Brooks, who's in the final season of his 5-year contract, looks pretty lost trying to find effective lineups on the court. And league sources say Brooks is sitting firmly on the hot seat right now. They got to get wins fast. But new coach or not, the team also just needs to be better. Some of their players are struggling who came back this season. Bertans has apparently lost his jump shot. Thomas Bryant still can't protect the rim, and now he's out for the full season with a torn ACL. Their new additions haven't moved the needle either. Robin Lopez looks roasted, and Danny Avdia is just a rookie figuring things out. I will say this, though. With Avdia, Rui Hachimura, and other solid young players like Troy Brown Jr. and Isaac Bonga, the Wizards aren't necessarily without hope for the future. This team does have young talent. It's just a matter of if they become competitive enough before Beal has to make a choice to stay or go. Another factor that will make Beal a more appetizing trade target, it's simple. The trade market gets slim quickly after him and Harden. Kyle Lowry is still producing for the Raptors, but he'll turn 35 before the playoffs. Bulls guard Zach LaVine has come up to me in some conversations because he can become a free agent in 2022. He's been really good this year. He could be that next guy the teams are trying to target. Or how about DeMar DeRozan from the Spurs? In his 30s, having one of the best seasons of his career. That's been a lot of fun to watch, and he could make sense as a target to finish out the season. But options are limited no matter how you slice it. Any team looking to make a big splash would only naturally look toward the Wizards. And if Beal does become available, the expectation around the league is there's going to be a long line of teams hoping to acquire him. There could also be a few teams flying under the radar who can put themselves in a superstar sweepstakes. Take a team like New Orleans, for example. The Pelicans are sitting on a pile of future first acquired for Anthony Davis and Drew Holiday, plus a bevy of talented young players and tradable veteran contracts. Execs from other teams don't believe Pelicans executive vice president David Griffin is going to sit on those assets for long, considering how good Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson already are. There's got to be some urgency there. And with Stan Van Gundy at head coach and Steven Adams at center now, the Pelicans are actually getting stops on defense. Ingram and Williamson, however, need assistance offensively. They don't have a shot creator, and their spacing stinks. They need more shooters on that team. Let's reiterate one thing in case it's not clear, though. Beal isn't available yet. The season isn't even 1 month old, so the Wizards still have a little time to turn this around. But Wizards fans have a right to be worried here because their paths to make improvements are quite limited. Even if the Wizards keep Beal for the rest of the season and go into the offseason hoping to improve, they project to have no cap space to sign any free agents, which is going to leave them with only the mid-level exception, which is worth under $10 million. You're not getting a lot for that. And before the deadline, significant players will be hard to come by, and any that could be had would come at the cost of sacrificing pieces with the most long-term value, like Avdia, Hachimura, and draft picks. And moving talented young players and picks would seem kind of desperate. It's not inevitable Beal expresses his desire to play elsewhere, but it is a growing likelihood given Washington's situation. Unless the Wizards can prove they can stop a parked car and Westbrook from torpedoing the offense, Beal will remain a threat to leave. Thank you so much for watching today's episode of The Void, and thank you to Dylan Berkey and Sean Yee for producing. If you like this episode, please scroll down, hit the like button, and share the video with your friends who love the NBA. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out.